Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are immersing ourselves in the final, and I think maybe the most crucial section of Dwayne Cross's work on societal connection. It's a deep dive right into the heart of his conclusion, where the focus, just shifts entirely from diagnosis to strategy.
That's exactly right. I mean, if the earlier parts of this work were about identifying the fissures and faults in our current social landscape, this conclusion is basically a roadmap. Our mission today is, well, it's pretty clear. We're extracting the core knowledge and, more importantly, the practical strategies that the source material says we can use
Right.
in our personal lives, our teams, our professional environments to actually build bridges.
Right.
Bridges of understanding in what has become an intensely fragmented world.
And you can feel the urgency. It's palpable. Cross doesn't ease you into it at all. He emphasizes that the path toward unity, it begins with this absolute need to truly see and appreciate and understand the deep social and multicultural differences that are shaping every single experience right now.
Because we are not operating on stable ground, not at all. We're living in a moment of intense global instability, and the book just captures that feeling so perfectly in its opening phrase. It sets this environment of flux by saying, suddenly in front of us is an uncertain future as we watch everything changing in our life.
That feeling, that sense that the ground is constantly shifting beneath your feet, that is something everyone can relate to.
Everyone.
And the source suggests that this instability, this change, is exactly why division feels so acute right now. When people feel uncertain, they naturally contract, they seek out the familiar.
Precisely. It's unsettling for everyone, and that uncertainty just amplifies existing differences. But the core insight here, and this is so important, is that we have agency over our response. The conclusion frames this unsettling flux not just as a painful symptom, but as a potential catalyst for profound reinvention.
But only if we choose to respond in a certain way.
Exactly, provided we choose to exercise compassion and know that this challenges others too. The social unrest we see is, it's a painful process, but it signals that fundamental change is necessary.
Which brings us directly to the foundational questions the source material tackles, right?
Mhm.
Why is this division happening? And how, structurally, can we begin to forge a credible path toward unity? The analysis suggests we have to look much deeper than just the surface disagreements.
Absolutely. We have to start with the wiring. The analysis forces us to confront these really complex factors driving division, rooted in human psychology, sociology, and those deep-seated behavioral factors. We're talking about the subconscious roots of division, not just the political headlines you see every day.
Wait, let's go a bit deeper on that root system. The book seems to imply that our response to societal change isn't just cultural or learned, but it could actually be tied to our biology.
It is. It is. The source explains that individual responses to societal issues are deeply rooted in two interconnected things: our genetic makeup and our unique social histories. Think of the genetic component as like the predisposition for in-group identification. It's a survival mechanism. We are literally wired to find safety in the tribe.
So we're sort of predisposed to tribalism, and then our personal history, where we grew up, what we experienced, the groups we were part of, that pours the specific content into that tribal vessel. Is that the mechanism?
That is the essential interplay. Exactly.
Yeah.
And this combination of history and genetics leads directly to what Cross calls the formation of collective social group consciousness. And this is a crucial concept. It's not just a collection of individuals. It's a shared way of seeing the world that validates and reinforces the in-group's beliefs. It often makes anything outside that group seem inherently threatening or just incorrect.
So that consciousness is what creates the echo chamber effect we see everywhere on social media, where facts are filtered and opinions are hardened because the group's shared history, its internal logic, just takes precedence over external reality.
Exactly. Understanding that formation of consciousness is essential for anticipating and, navigating differing perspectives. If you can recognize that someone's seemingly irrational viewpoint is actually a perfectly rational extension of their collective group consciousness, forged by their unique history, the whole discussion changes. Instantly, it becomes about understanding the source of the perspective, not just refuting the output.
That's a powerful translation of a pretty dense term, and it reinforces the book's initial message.
Yeah.
When you're facing this unsettling social change, you have the agency to choose compassion, to know that these challenges, the flux, the urge to retreat to your group, are universal, even if our specific group identities make them manifest differently.
Yes, it connects the micro level of individual psychology to the macro level of societal action.
Okay, so if that explains the internal psychological why, let's turn to the historical paradox of division. The source material spends a lot of time on this powerful argument that seems almost contradictory to our current climate. That diversity is historically our enduring strength, not a weakness.
And this is where the book provides some really necessary perspective. The core argument is simple. Throughout history, diversity, whether it's race, culture, religion, political belief, has been the engine of progress. It is the friction of differing ideas that produces the spark of innovation.
Right, and the source really drives this home with a profound assertion. It reminds us that society has survived and achieved monumental progress because we were a melting pot of diverse races, cultures, ideas, and opinions. This constant interaction of different viewpoints was the greatest catalyst for invention and resilience history has ever known.
Which leads us directly to the paradox we're facing today. We acknowledge the natural human need to form groups for security and identity. It's evolutionarily vital. Groups are the absolute building blocks of society. But if groups provide security and diversity provides strength, why is the interaction between these groups causing fragmentation now?
That seems to be the million-dollar question, doesn't it? If what united us was diversity, what is driving us apart now?
Well, the book points to the speed of modern life coupled with this overwhelming influx of information. We've gone through massive transitions from agricultural to industrial, and now we are squarely in the hyper-fast information age. That sheer speed, combined with the constant, often conflicting facts from social media and partisan news, has just fundamentally eroded our shared sense of reality.
So instead of diverse ideas creating a common, stronger path, they are now just fighting for dominance in their own separate information bubbles.
Exactly. The source notes that stark reversal. What once united us now divides us. The very mechanism of information exchange that should connect us is instead tailored to segment us into increasingly isolated camps.
And this fragmentation, it just solidifies the specific obstacles the conclusion pinpoints, right?
Yeah.
The breakdown isn't just external, it's about a refusal to look beyond the in-group.
It is. The book details the specific roadblocks getting in the way of constructive efforts, and these include a dangerous lack of value for diversity of thought or personal identity, often overridden by the comfort of group thinking and that collective group consciousness we talked about. When the group demands conformity, genuine progress, it stalls.
So we've allowed the psychological comfort of belonging to override the necessary, messy work of mutual understanding. It's just easier to agree with your group than to wrestle with a conflicting, diverse perspective.
Precisely. And for societies to thrive, to keep evolving, mutual understanding is paramount. The source insists this can only be achieved through genuine knowledge of one another's personal identity, history, and culture. If we don't know why the person across the table feels the way they do, we can't find common ground. Without that shared foundation of knowledge and respect, progress is, well, it's severely hampered, if not impossible.
Okay, so here's where it gets really tangible. The analysis moves from the why and the what into the practical toolkit, the how for personal and societal evolution. What does the book suggest as the path forward for society as a whole?
The necessary societal actions are, well, they're clear, but they require monumental effort. We have to foster better open dialogue, which means moving beyond just shouting at each other and actually engaging in active listening. This, in turn, necessitates a massive collective reevaluation of our shared identity and our common purpose within this increasingly interdependent global landscape. We are past the point where isolation is a viable option.
And while that sounds like a daunting societal task, the real empowering message here, and the source stresses this, is that the revolution starts with individual agency. We have control over our own thoughts, even in an era where those thoughts are constantly being shaped by social and politicalized media.
That's the key. That really is the key. If you understand you are constantly being targeted with biased interpretations designed to reinforce existing social group identities, you gain the power to resist. You have to cultivate new coping skills to maintain your personal and intellectual integrity. The book lays out 3 very practical individual skills required to move forward.
Let's break those down, starting with the first one. Mindfulness tools. How does the book suggest we use mindfulness to combat fragmentation?
It's about creating mental distance between the thought and the thinker. The source says mindfulness is necessary to discern when your thoughts are based on personal reasoned beliefs, what you've genuinely concluded. versus when you are merely being influenced or even, weaponized by external agendas and group echo chambers. It means asking yourself, did I arrive at this conclusion or was it provided to me prepackaged?
Wow. That requires tremendous self-awareness. And once you have that discernment, how do you handle the actual information coming in?
That leads directly to the second skill, critical thinking and conflict management. We must employ rigorous critical thinking skills to differentiate fact from the fiction that is constantly being pumped into the system. This isn't just about reading the news, it's about applying intellectual honesty to sources, motives, and claims. And when we apply those facts in conversation, we need robust conflict management skills to keep the dialogue constructive, even when opinions clash violently.
So, okay, we develop discernment, we vet the information, and then we choose our response. The third skill is that active choice of how to move forward.
Exactly. The ultimate choice presented is choosing empathy over hatred, actively seeking compromise over the easy road of division, and committing to personal growth that cultivates a broader, more inclusive worldview. This is the practical application of understanding the other person's collective social group consciousness. You use that knowledge to find a point of connection, not a point of attack.
And this framework suggests that unity isn't a destination you just arrive at, but a continuous effort. It brings to mind the wisdom the source integrates from Henry Ford, which really frames this entire process of collaborative effort.
Ford provides the blueprint for sustained action. Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. It frames the journey of unity in three distinct sequential steps. You can't just jump to success without doing the hard work of progress first, which means keeping together through that difficult reevaluation period.
That definition of progress keeping together requires immense patience and adherence to those new coping skills. It means that even when we bring it all back to the core concept the Unity Cross advocates for it's radically different from forced agreement.
That's the most crucial distinction in the entire conclusion. The source makes it absolutely clear that unity is not about mandatory consensus where everyone has to think and vote the same way. That's just conformity, not unity.
So what is true unity then, according to this deep dive?
True unity is rooted in empathetic understanding of each other's viewpoint, respect for the individual, and a willingness to reach compromise on divisive issues. It's a process defined by tolerance and respect, even when fundamental beliefs diverge. You are united by the commitment to coexistence, not by having identical opinions.
That makes the overall mission of Cross's work so much more powerful. It's not just about solving social conflict, but fostering a deeper mutual understanding of why we think and behave as we do, with the hope that this knowledge will lead to greater empathy, tolerance, and ultimately effective collaboration toward our shared human purpose.
And that shared human purpose is entirely dependent on connection. Ultimately, the source ties the mission back to the fundamental importance of that strength of connection. Using that profound insight quoted from J.K. Rowling, "We are only as strong as we are united, as weak as we are divided. The choice is just laid bare for us."
So we've covered the psychological roots of division, the historical paradox of our diverse strength in the face of modern fragmentation, and the practical toolkit for personal and societal evolution. The source presents us with a very clear final choice as a culture facing this period of intense flux.
Indeed. History demands that we evolve. We face a stark ultimatum. We must adapt as a culture by embracing difficult dialogue, developing those critical thinking skills, and actively seeking compromise. Or we will face the inevitable consequences of further division and potential societal breakdown. The structure of society is currently being tested.
Which leaves us with a provocative thought for you, the listener. If mutual understanding requires knowledge of one another's personal identity, history, and culture, and not just your own, where in your daily life, personally or professionally, can you actively seek out and internalize that missing knowledge this week? The responsibility for this cultural evolution rests entirely on that individual choice.
An incredibly important question for a complex time. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into unity and division.
Thank you for diving deep with us.